What's going on, everyone? So today we're going to do a stocks on watch video. There's a handful that I like going into next week. It's going to be from November 20th to November 24th. It's also a Thanksgiving week, right? There's a holiday, so sometimes the trading can be a little funky or low volume, but there are some stocks that I like based on their daily charts, and I want to go over those today, as well as do a quick analysis of the SPY and the QQQ, because the way that those are going to go or how it's going to possibly end up is going to dictate the market, right? So what does the market do? What's the SPY doing? What are the Qs doing? And then how could that possibly lead to these other stocks playing out? I am leaning to the upside, but that does not mean that that's going to happen. So I will break down all of that in this video. But before I get into those details, first, I just want to highlight that this is obviously just my YouTube channel. I am very active on other social medias. If you are not following me on any of those social media accounts, go ahead and do so. I'm very active on Instagram, active on Twitter. I do have a Facebook, obviously my main Facebook. I don't post much. And then I do have a Matt Diamond Trades Facebook page where I do post the occasional videos. I'm not super active there. Really, it's just going to be Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And remember, I will never, ever DM you asking you for money or talking about crypto. Those are scammers. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that I can do about it, and they just create accounts of me. And even if I block them, they will create new ones. So it's just an unfortunate situation. Not much I can do about it, but just be smart and realize that I will never DM asking you for money or doing any sort of cryptocurrency thing at all. So what I've done now is I put the watch list at the bottom of the stocks that I am watching for the specific reasons I will go over. But first, let's do a quick analysis of the SPY. What are we doing? Obviously, this is incredibly extended to the upside, but it looks like it's forming a little bit of a bull flag on the daily chart. Now, a bull flag this high, it's gone this far. You know, can it follow through? Of course it can. But I feel like there's a likely probability that eventually we're going to pull back just because it feels like it's due for it at some point. And then there are some downside gaps that it could potentially fill. But let's just keep it very simple. It is forming a bit of a bull flag consolidation towards the highs here. So I'm going to be looking at prior day high, prior day low. I'm going to use those as reactionary levels if we open up close to those levels. And then if for some reason we get above these highs and we clear that out, there is this prior pivot high at 453.67. Above that, and the squeeze could continue. So just keeping it very simple. If we clear out these lows, and then also this kind of prior gap up low, which is call it 446 because it's 446.09, but just say 446, it could have a healthy pullback to the 9 EMA or even fill some of these open gaps on the daily. Now let's go over the Qs. Similar situation, except for it is above its prior pivot highs, at least within the last 6 months or 3 months. So similar look as the SPYs, the Qs, forming a bull flag consolidation. We've had an insane rally from the lows, but it's holding this move higher so far. So we have prior day high at 387.07, and then this little prior pivot high, which is a red candle that I would think if anybody is short, trying to swing short the Qs for the reasons that it's extended, which makes sense, above those highs, if I was short, I would want to get out of the way. So we also have that high above that. That's 387.75. Above that, we could have the bull flag continuation and more upside. We'll see. And then if it flips and goes the other way and we pull back, I'm looking at prior day low, which was on Friday, 384.29, and then going to be this prior gap up low, which is right around 383. So we clear out 383 to the downside. This could have a healthy pullback to the 9 EMA, potentially close the open gap on the daily. So that's the analysis of the SPY and the QQQ. Now, as far as the main stocks that I'm watching next week, I think number one is going to be NVDA. It is reporting earnings, so option contracts are going to be expensive. But as far as just straight up technicals, I think this looks pretty good because you had a huge rally from the lows. Yes, it's extended, but it did have a pullback day and then just held up like a champ. Still above the 9 EMA. You know, a little bit of a, not an inside day, but not a wide range candle, forming a bull flag pattern just below all-time high, all-time closing high, or all-time high in general, as far as where it went to. It ended up selling off pretty aggressively this day, but as far as where it actually printed, where trades went through, 502.66. So we have forming a bull flag. 500 is going to be a psychological level. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of liquidity there. So you got the bull flag pattern just under 500. 500 is going to be a psych level. If we confirm to the upside, we clear out 500, and then we take out that all-time high, 502.66. I think this looks good to the upside. Now, nothing has to happen. I'm just going based on the daily technicals. Now, I'm also looking at Meta. Now, I don't love this as much because I feel like Meta has been trading a little thin lately, but as far as technically, it looks pretty good. This has had a nice rally, but not as aggressive to the upside. You know, I feel like this is a little bit more of a sustained rally. Even though that is still a big move, had the push higher, got a bit of a pullback to the 9 EMA, held the 9 EMA, two nice green candles off the 9 EMA, forming a bit of a bull flag pattern. And this little prior pivot high here, 338.40, that's going to be a 52-week high. So as long as this keeps trending higher, it just keeps making new 52-week highs. So if we get above prior day high can be support. We hold that, and then we get above this prior high, which was 338.40, which is a 52-week high. I feel like this looks good to the upside. Nothing has to happen, but just going based off the technicals. I also like AMD. This is going to trade in sympathy to NVIDIA, but just exclusively looking at the technicals. A nice rally from the lows around 94, holding above the 9 EMA. Bit of a bull flag consolidation. It's not as clean, but just the idea of there's been a strong move higher. We're now getting a little bit of consolidation. You know, we do have that prior high at 121.49, and then also this little prior topping tail wick high at 122.11. Also, look at the 6 month. Look at this 122. Came up to it a couple times, failed, pulled back, and we are now getting back to that level. So 122 is a pretty big level. If we clear out 122, we hold above it. This looks like it has some room to the upside. Remember, nothing has to happen, just going based off strictly technicals. I also like this coin. The problem with coin is that sometimes those options can be pretty wide and it can trade a little sketchy. Like there's days that even though there are big moves, price action is not necessarily the cleanest, but forming a bit of a sloppy bull flag pattern. More or less what I see here is that there was a huge candle, you know, that had a push up into 100 and then a big topping tail. So you had sellers clearly come into this stock. And if we get back over that, I would think that if anybody is still holding their positions short stubbornly, you know, it looks like maybe this has a chance to go a little higher. 100 is going to be a major psychological level. So if we hold prior day high at 99.43, we get above the high on a couple days ago, 110.15, and we hold 100 because I'm sure there's going to be liquidity there going back to about 6 months. I mean, 100 is clearly a major psych level. Above that, who knows? Sometimes this has the personality where it could squeeze a little bit and just catch a lot of people off sides that are short. So just based off technicals, I think that looks pretty good. And then now looking at Roku, I don't like this as much, but it's worth watching simply just because I like the idea that, you know, we've had a very strong move higher. We're kind of consolidating. This was sort of a bull flag pattern, more or less just consolidation after a big move higher. And then we topped out right around 93. And then also on Friday, we topped out at 93. So I think 93 is going to be a pretty big technical level, whole number technical level. If we hold above that, then this big red candle right here, if anybody was still for some reason holding their shorts, you know, if we were to get above that pivot, 95.84, who knows? Maybe this has some continuation to the upside. So obviously I'm going to be watching SPY, QQQ. If there's any individual stock news, that's going to be, you know, something that I'm going to add to the watch list throughout the day. But as far as going into next week, you know, not knowing anything that's going to happen as far as news with individual stocks, just based on daily charts and the technicals, the stocks that I really like going into next week are going to be NVIDIA, Meta, AMD, Coin, and Roku. Now, nothing has to happen. These things do not have to go one way or the other. I'm just basing it off the technicals that I see fit on the daily chart, but I'm just a scalper. So even though I have the idea of which way maybe these can go, I'm going to react to price action because I like these to the upside. But if they flip to the downside and they have a very aggressive down day, you know that I am totally open-minded to scalping it to the short side. But just as far as daily setups, this is why I like these stocks. It should be an interesting week and we'll see what happens. So that's the stocks that are on watch for me. Thank you for watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.